Sometimes life just breaks your rhythm. You wake up one morning and something feels off. Maybe you lose a job you thought you'd keep forever. Maybe the person you trusted most walks away. Or maybe it's not one big thing. Maybe it's just that quiet emptiness that sneaks in when everything should feel fine, but doesn't. We've all been there, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., asking that same question, why is this happening to me? But what if the better question isn't why, but what does this try to teach me? Maybe life isn't falling apart. Maybe it's just shifting, opening space for something we can't see yet. And maybe that's not the end of your story. It's just the start of a new chapter. If that thought gives you a little peace, stay with me till the end. And hey, if you want more of this kind of quiet reflection, you can subscribe. We're all learning together here. When I first heard the Buddhist idea that everything happens for a reason, I'll be honest, I didn't believe it. It sounded too simple, almost cliché. Because when you're in pain, you don't want reasons, you just want relief. I remember losing a job that meant everything to me. My whole identity was built around it. For weeks, I woke up angry at the world, angry at myself. But slowly, as the noise in my mind softened, I realized maybe that loss wasn't punishment. Maybe it was a redirection. Losing that job forced me to ask questions I never had time to ask about what I really wanted, who I really was. That pain cracked something open in me, and through that crack, light started to come in. Buddhism says suffering isn't a curse, it's a teacher, though most of the time, it doesn't look like one. Pain has a way of disguising itself, hiding lessons in the mess. And maybe, just maybe, that's what it's supposed to do. Because without the ache, we wouldn't pause. Without the confusion, we wouldn't search. And without being broken a little, we wouldn't know how strong we truly are. The Buddha once said that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. What he meant was that we can't avoid life's storms, but we can choose how to walk through them. When we fight the pain, we only make it heavier. But when we sit with it, breathe with it, and say, okay, this hurts, but I'm still here, something shifts inside us. The pain loses its sharpness, and wisdom quietly takes its place. I once read a story about a monk who told his student to take a handful of salt and drop it into a glass of water, then drink it. Of course, it tasted awful. Then he told him to throw the same salt into a lake and drink that water. It tasted pure. Life's suffering, the monk said, is like the salt. It doesn't change. What changes is the container you hold it in. Maybe your glass just feels too small right now. Maybe the pain is too close, too much. But what if you widen your view a little? What if you let life be a lake instead of glass? Sometimes peace doesn't come from fixing anything. It comes from seeing differently. So if you're in a place where things don't make sense, where everything feels uncertain, breathe. Don't rush to make it all better. Don't punish yourself for not understanding. Maybe this is where something inside you is learning to grow. Maybe this is where life is gently teaching you how to let go, how to trust, how to start again. And maybe one day you'll look back and say, that's when everything started to make sense. But for now, just be here. That's enough. If this message finds you in that quiet space between breaking and becoming, I hope you stay a while. Subscribe if you want, not just to a channel, but to this shared reminder that you're not alone, that every ending carries the whisper of a beginning. Maybe everything really does happen for a reason, or maybe the reason is simply to help us wake up to who we already are. Sometimes I think life has a funny way of testing how much faith we really have. Not in religion, not even in people, but in the flow of things we can't control. You know that moment when everything you planned for just slips right through your hands? It's almost as if the universe is saying, not this way. And even though it hurts, maybe that's life's way of guiding us back to something more real, something that actually fits who we're becoming. The truth is, we don't really grow when things go our way. We grow when we're forced to let go, when we're standing in the middle of nowhere trying to make sense of it all. Maybe you've been there, losing someone, losing yourself, losing the map. But what if that loss is in the end? What if it's the quiet pause before the next sunrise? There's this soft truth in Buddhist thought that says life is a dance between holding on and letting go. And most of our suffering comes from holding on too tight. We hold on to people because we're scared of being alone. We hold on to dreams because we're scared to start over. We even hold on to pain because at least it's familiar. But the moment we unclench our fists, even just a little, something shifts. The world feels lighter. Our breath feels deeper. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you stop trying to control what was never yours to control in the first place. It's like watching a leaf fall. You don't tell it where to land. You just watch it drift, and somehow that's enough. I remember a story about a teacher and a student walking through a forest. The student was worried, saying, "Master, what if I fail? What if I never find peace?" The teacher picked up a cup of tea, filled it to the brim, and kept pouring until it spilled over. "This is your mind," he said, "so full of worries, fears, and what if there's no space for peace to enter?" And that's how we live, right? Always pouring, always thinking, always trying to fill what was never empty. Peace doesn't come from adding more. It comes from emptying, from making space for life to move again. Sometimes I think we confuse healing with fixing. We want to fix our sadness, fix our heartbreak, fix the mess inside our minds. But healing isn't about fixing. It's about softening. It's about sitting quietly with yourself and saying, maybe I don't need all the answers right now. Maybe I just need to breathe and trust that this, too, is part of the path. When we stop rushing to escape our pain, something amazing happens. The pain stops chasing us. It loses its power because we're no longer fighting it. That's what surrender really means. Not giving up, but opening up. And when you open up, life has this gentle way of surprising you. You start to notice small things again. Sunlight on your skin, laughter from a stranger, the way the wind feels like a whisper. Those tiny moments are proof that beauty still exists, even in broken places. The Buddhists call it suchness, the simple, sacred truth of things just as they are. No judgment, no need to change, just being. And maybe that's where peace really lives. Not in the big moments of success or clarity, but in the soft spaces in between. If you ever felt like you're behind, like everyone else is figuring life out faster than you, please, let that go. You're not late. You're not lost. You're just unfolding. Maybe your story takes a little longer because it's meant to be deeper. Maybe the waiting isn't punishment. Maybe it's preparation. The caterpillar doesn't rush the cocoon. The flower doesn't apologize for blooming in its own season. You're allowed to move slowly. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to not have it all together. Healing isn't a race. It's a rhythm. And when you find that rhythm, you start to feel the quiet hum of peace underneath everything, like a soft heartbeat reminding you that you're still alive, still becoming. You see, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every ending, they all leave behind a gift. Sometimes it's strength. Sometimes it's wisdom. Sometimes it's just the ability to see others with softer eyes. The Buddhists talk about compassion as a natural result of suffering. When you've been broken open, you can't help but feel more for others. Pain humbles you. It makes you kind. And kindness, real unforced kindness, might just be the purest form of enlightenment we ever get to know. So if you're still holding on to something that hurts, maybe tonight's the night to loosen your grip, even just a little. You don't have to let it all go at once. Healing doesn't happen in one grand gesture. It happens in tiny, quiet choices. The choice to breathe instead of react, to listen instead of blame, to forgive instead of hold on. Every time you choose peace over chaos, you're teaching your heart a new way to live. And maybe that's what everything happens for a reason really means. Not that there's some cosmic plan with all the answers, but that even the hardest moments carry seeds of meaning, waiting to bloom in their own time. You don't need to force it. Just keep walking, keep breathing, keep trusting that one day you'll look back and smile, not because it was easy, but because it made you who you are. If this message feels like a quiet companion for you tonight, stay a little longer. Subscribe if you'd like, not for numbers or algorithms, but because maybe together we can remind each other of this simple truth. You are still becoming, and that's enough. Maybe we don't have to figure life out after all. Maybe all we need is to live it. One breath, one lesson, one gentle letting go at a time. There comes a time when you realize that holding on to what's gone doesn't keep you safe. It only keeps you stuck. I think we all have that moment, standing somewhere between who we were and who we're meant to become. It's quiet there, lonely sometimes. You might look back and wonder if you made a mistake by letting go. But maybe that space in between, that empty stretch, is where the soul finally learns how to breathe on its own. Maybe that's where you start hearing life whisper again. You're okay. Keep going. Buddhism teaches that clinging is the root of suffering, not because love or hope are wrong, but because when we cling, we stop trusting the flow of life. We grip too tightly, thinking we can stop change. But change is the heartbeat of existence. Everything moves, everything shifts, everything fades and becomes something new. Think about the ocean. Waves rise, crash, and disappear, yet the sea remains. That's us. We're not the waves we cling to, not the job, the relationship, the version of ourselves we thought would last forever. We're the ocean beneath it all, vast and still. Once you start to live from that deeper place, things stop feeling like losses. They start to feel like transformations. I used to think peace meant nothing bad ever happened again. But now I see it's something quieter, softer. It's the gentle strength of knowing that no matter what happens, you'll meet it with open eyes and an open heart. You stop needing to control everything. You stop needing every answer. You just show up with presence, with honesty, with love. And somehow that's enough. Because life isn't asking us to be perfect. It's just asking us to be here, to live fully in each moment, even the hard ones. When you start walking this path of acceptance, something strange happens. The same pain that once broke you begins to teach you tenderness. The same mistakes that haunted you start shaping your wisdom. The same silence that scared you becomes your peace. You realize that every heartbreak, every goodbye, every detour was actually guiding you toward this deeper understanding, that nothing is wasted, not even your tears. Every drop has a purpose. Every scar carries a story that someone else might need someday. There's a beautiful saying in Zen, let go or be dragged. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest truths to live. We get dragged by our memories, our regrets, our need for control. We replay conversations. We chase what's gone. We fight what's already happened. But when you finally let go, not out of defeat, but out of trust, you stop being dragged. You begin to flow. You learn to walk with the river instead of against it. And in that flow, there's peace. Maybe peace isn't about finding the perfect life, but about realizing life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be real. It was meant to be felt, the highs, the lows, the pauses in between. Maybe the point was never to avoid pain, but to see through it, to find the beauty hidden inside. Because when you've truly felt loss, you start to appreciate love more deeply. When you've sat in darkness, you recognize light when it comes. When you've been broken, you stop taking wholeness for granted. That's what pain does. It teaches you how to see. Sometimes I look back on the hardest seasons of my life and realize those were the exact moments that built my quiet strength. The kind you don't brag about, the kind that just lives in your eyes, that calm knowing that no storm lasts forever. And maybe that's what growing up really means. It's not about getting harder or colder. It's about becoming gentler, more open, more alive to the simple things that actually matter. So if you're listening to this and your heart feels heavy, if you're somewhere in that messy middle, please don't rush it. Don't try to skip ahead. This chapter, as uncomfortable as it is part of your becoming. Maybe the reason everything feels uncertain is because you're being rewritten. Maybe you're being shaped for something you can't yet imagine. And when the time comes, it'll make sense. You'll see how every twist, every ache, every pause is preparing you for peace. Until then, breathe. Let life unfold in its own rhythm. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to know where it's all heading. You just need to trust that the same power that turns night into morning, winter into spring, will also turn your pain into peace. If this message feels like a soft place to rest, stay a little while longer. Subscribe if you want. Not for me, but for yourself, as a small reminder to keep choosing calm, to keep coming back to the space where it's okay to be human. Because maybe, in the end, that's all we're here to learn, how to love this imperfect, beautiful life, one breath, one moment, one gentle letting go at a time. There's a quiet kind of peace that comes when you stop, try to understand everything. When you finally sit down with your confusion, your heartbreak, your unanswered prayers, and just breathe. It's not the peace that comes from having it all figured out. It's the kind that comes from realizing you don't have to. Maybe that's what growing spiritually really means. Not collecting more answers, but learning how to live comfortably among the questions. The Buddhists call it beginner's mind, that openness to life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Maybe peace begins the moment we stop demanding that life makes sense and start trusting that it already does, in ways we can't see yet. You see, life doesn't move in straight lines. It circles back, it folds on itself, it repeats lessons until we finally understand them. You'll think you're past something, a heartbreak, an old wound, a fear, and then it shows up again, softer this time, asking, "Are you ready to heal now?" And maybe that's okay. Maybe healing isn't a single moment of clarity, but a slow returning, again and again, to the truth that you're still here, still learning, still worthy of love no matter how many times you fall apart. I used to think enlightenment was some magical state where pain disappeared and everything felt light. But now I see it differently. Enlightenment isn't about escaping the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain, to smile even when your heart aches a little. It's that quiet realization that the storm was never against you. It was cleaning you, shaping you, preparing you to see beauty in places you never looked before. Maybe that's why the Buddha smiled. Not because life was perfect, but because he finally stopped resisting it. And maybe we spend too much time chasing happiness, thinking it's something we'll find once we fix everything. But happiness isn't a destination, it's a moment. It's your morning coffee, the sound of rain, the laughter that catches you off guard. It's that tiny, gentle warmth that sneaks in when you finally stop running. Maybe the reason happiness feels so hard to hold is because it was never meant to be held, only noticed, felt, and released. Like a bird that lands on your hand for a second, then flies away. And that's okay. That's enough. There's an old Buddhist teaching that says, when you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. I used to think that meant pretending everything was fine, but it's not about denial. It's about surrender. It's about seeing that even the imperfect, the messy, the painful, they all belong. That even what breaks you has its place in the story. Because maybe perfection isn't about flawlessness. Maybe it's about wholeness. Embracing everything that makes you who you are, the light and the shadow, the joy and the pain. And maybe when we start to see life that way, gratitude naturally appears. Not the loud, forced kind where we list what we're thankful for, but the quiet kind that lives in the breath. The gratitude that says, I don't have everything I want, but I have enough. I'm not where I thought I'd be, but I'm exactly where I need to be. That kind of gratitude changes everything. It turns ordinary moments into miracles. It turns pain into wisdom. It turns fear into softness. So tonight, maybe let yourself stop fighting life for a little while. Let yourself sit with what is. If things are uncertain, let them be. If you're tired, rest. If you're scared, hold your fear with kindness. You don't have to fix it all tonight. You don't even have to understand it. You just have to be here. Because being here, truly here, is the doorway to peace. The rest will unfold slowly, beautifully, in its own time. And if these words bring you a little calm in the noise, I'm glad you're here. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this quiet path with me. Not for motivation, not for answers, but for those gentle reminders we all need sometimes. That it's okay to slow down. It's okay to let go. It's okay to start again. Because maybe life isn't about finding your way out of the darkness. Maybe it's about realizing you were never really lost. You were just learning how to see the light within you all along. There's a moment somewhere deep in the journey when you stop searching for meaning and start feeling it. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start whispering thank you. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you finally see what it gave you. That kind of gratitude doesn't arrive all at once. It grows slowly, like morning light easing through a curtain. You wake up one day, look back at the things that almost broke you, and realize they didn't destroy you, they refined you. They made you softer where you used to be sharp, stronger where you used to be fragile. Maybe that's the quiet miracle of life, that it keeps teaching us, even through the pain, how to return to ourselves. The Buddhists say suffering is like a teacher that refuses to leave until you've learned the lesson. And most of the time, the lesson is about the world. It's about you. It's about how deeply you can love, how patiently you can wait, how gently you can rise after falling. We often think healing means becoming who we used to be before it all went wrong. But maybe healing is becoming someone entirely new, someone wiser, freer, and a little more tender. Maybe it's about coming home, not to the person you were, but to the person you were meant to be all along. And maybe that's why everything happens for a reason. Not because the universe is controlling us, but because life is always guiding us toward wholeness, even when we can't see the path. Every disappointment, every heartbreak, every moment that makes you question yourself, they're all small nudges from life saying, not this way. Try another. It's okay if you don't see it yet. Understanding comes later, after the storm has passed. For now, all you need to do is trust that nothing is wasted. There was a monk who said, the river doesn't apologize for changing its course. I love that, Because sometimes we outgrow old versions of ourselves, old dreams, old relationships, and that's not betrayal. That's nature. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to want different things. You are allowed to evolve. Maybe what you thought was the end is just your soul taking a turn towards something truer. And maybe you won't even recognize yourself a year from now, and that's a beautiful thing. Growth always changes our shape. As you walk forward, there will still be moments of doubt. You'll question if you're doing enough, if you're enough. But the truth is, you don't need to earn your worth. You never did. You don't need to chase love, success, or peace. You just need to clear the space inside yourself so those things can find you. Life isn't something to conquer. It's something to feel. The Buddhists often remind us, don't chase after the world. Let it come to you. When you stop running, everything that's meant for you begins to unfold quietly, like petals opening in sunlight. So maybe tonight, let it be enough. Let this breath be enough. Let this small, simple moment be sacred. You've carried yourself through so many storms already. Maybe it's time to rest in the calm you've earned. Maybe it's time to trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You don't need to rush into the next chapter. It's already writing itself. Just keep showing up with honesty. Keep choosing peace. Keep forgiving yourself for not knowing sooner. And if your heart still aches, that's okay. It just means you're alive, still open, still capable of love. Don't close that door. Don't harden. Stay tender. Even when the world tries to make you tough. Because tenderness, that soft, quiet strength, is what keeps you human. And maybe in the end, that's what enlightenment really is. Not rising above the world, but walking through it with your heart unarmored, your hands open, your eyes full of compassion. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, for feeling, for just being here. Maybe you didn't find all the answers, but maybe you found a little peace, and that's enough for today. If this space feels like home to your soul, you can subscribe, and we'll keep walking this path together. No rush, no pressure. Just gentle steps, one breath, one story, one small awakening at a time. Because maybe, just maybe, everything really does happen for a reason. Or maybe the reason is simply love. There comes a point in every soul's journey when you stop chasing after what's gone and start opening your arms to what's coming. It's not an easy shift. It takes time. It takes tears. It takes 1,000 quiet nights of wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. But then one day, something inside you softens. You start to see that the things you lost didn't break you. They shaped you. They carve out space inside your heart so that something new, something deeper, could finally live there. Maybe that's what all this letting go has been about. Not losing yourself, but making room for the next version of you to arrive. There's a calm that comes when you finally accept that life will never be what you imagined. And yet, somehow, it's still beautiful. You stop fighting the flow. Stop trying to force the pieces back into the puzzle. They no longer fit. You begin to trust that maybe things didn't work out because something better, something more aligned with your soul, needed space to appear. The Buddhists call this the middle path, walking the line between holding on and giving up, between control and surrender. It's the space where peace lives. It's not loud, not dramatic, just steady, quiet, real. You start noticing the small things again. The sound of birds at dawn, the softness of sunlight on your face, the way laughter feels lighter now. You realize that joy was never lost. It was just buried under your expectations. And the more you release those expectations, the more life begins to feel like grace. Maybe happiness was never something to find, but something that grows in the spaces we clear when we stop clinging so hard to what was. And maybe, just maybe, you start forgiving, not because they apologized, not because it was fair, but because carrying anger started to feel heavier than the pain itself. You forgive because your peace matters more. You forgive because you finally understand that every person who hurt you was also hurting, lost in their own confusion. That realization doesn't excuse what they did. It just frees you from needing to carry their story any longer. Forgiveness isn't a gift for them. It's a release for you. It's how you unclench your fist and say, I'm done fighting what's already over. From there, something beautiful begins to happen. Life starts to meet you halfway. Doors you thought were closed begin to open. The right people start showing up at the right time. You stop chasing and start attracting. Not because of luck, but because your energy has shifted. You've stopped resisting what is, and that allows what's meant for you to flow in naturally. It's like standing still long enough for the river to carry you. And if you still have moments when you fall back into doubt, that's okay. You're human. Healing isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel free. Other days, the old pain will echo. But each time you come back to your breath, each time you remind yourself that you're safe right here, right now, that's growth. That's peace. You're learning to trust life again, not because it's perfect, but because you've learned that even imperfect parts have their place. Maybe that's what awakening really is. Not escaping the human experience, but fully embracing it. The tears, the laughter, the loss, the wonder, all of it. You start realizing that you were never separate from life, never abandoned by it. You've always been part of its rhythm, even when it hurt, even when it didn't make sense. And that realization, that deep sense of belonging to something larger, wiser, and endlessly forgiving, that's where peace lives. So if you're listening to this right now, maybe this is your reminder. You don't need to have it all together. You don't need to rush your healing. You just need to keep showing up for yourself gently, honestly, one day at a time. Trust the unfolding. Trust the silence. Trust that even now, life is working in your favor, rearranging what needs to fall, so that what's meant for you can rise. And if this message sits quietly somewhere in your heart tonight, stay connected. Subscribe if you want, not out of habit, but as a small promise to yourself to keep coming back to this kind of stillness, this gentle remembering that everything, even the pain, can lead you home. Because maybe that's what everything happens for a reason truly means. Not that life gives us what we want, but that it always gives us what we need to wake up, soften, and love just a little more. There's something sacred about the quiet after storm. That moment when the chaos is past, the noise fades, and all that's left is you, standing there, breathing, realizing you made it. Maybe you're a little bruised, a little changed, but you're still here. And that's everything. Because life was never meant to be a straight, smooth road. It's meant to twist and turn, to break you open just enough to let the light in. Every heartbreak, every wrong turn, every unanswered prayer, they weren't punishments. They were invitations. Invitations to look deeper, to grow softer, to see yourself the way life has always seen you, capable, resilient, whole. You see, we spend so much time trying to figure life out, try and make sense of why things happen the way they do. But maybe it's not about figuring it out. Maybe it's about learning to trust it, to trust that even when it doesn't make sense, even when you can't see the reason, there's something in it shaping you. The Buddhists say that awakening isn't a destination. It's not some mountain peak you climb to, and then suddenly everything becomes perfect. No, awakening is what happens in the small, ordinary moments. When you stop fighting what is and start flowing with it. When you stop asking, why me? and start whispering, "Thank you," even if your voice shakes a little when you say it. I remember a friend who once lost everything he thought defined him: his job, his home, even his sense of direction. For months he fought it. He was angry, bitter, scared. But one day, something shifted. He told me, "I woke up one morning and realized I wasn't broken. I was just being rebuilt." A year later, he started teaching meditation in community centers, helping people who felt lost like he once did. That's how life works. It breaks you open, and if you let it, it rebuilds you with more compassion, more grace, more truth. The path to peace isn't about avoiding pain. It's about allowing it to change you without hardening you. Every time life tests you, it's really asking, can you stay open? Can you keep your heart soft even when the world feels harsh? That's the real challenge. Because anyone can be kind when things are easy. But being kind when you're hurting, that's wisdom. That's growth. So if you're walking through something right now, a loss, a change, an uncertainty, please remember this. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The universe isn't trying to take something from you. It's trying to make space for something better. It's okay if you can't see it yet. Seeds don't see the sunlight when they're buried either. But that doesn't mean they aren't growing. Trust your process. And when the fear creeps back in, as it always does, breathe. Put your hand over your heart and remind yourself, I'm doing my best. And that's enough. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to have the answers. Sometimes your only job is to keep your heart open and let life move through you. That's what real surrender looks like. It's not weakness. It's strength wrapped in softness. Little by little, as you keep choosing trust over fear, life begins to open again. You start noticing beauty where there used to be pain. You start laughing more, not because everything's perfect, but because you finally understand it doesn't need to be. And that's when peace finds you, quietly, unexpectedly, like sunlight spilling through a crack in the clouds. So if this message reaches you today, maybe it's life's gentle way of saying, you're right where you need to be. Keep walking. Keep breathing. Keep believing that every ending is just a doorway in disguise. And if you ever forget, come back here. We'll walk this road together. Subscribe if you want to stay on this journey of gentle reminders of healing and letting go. Because sometimes all we really need is a voice that says, it's okay. You're going to be all right. And you are. You really are. There comes a time when the lessons stop shouting and start whispering. That's when you know you've begun to heal. The noise fades, the need control, to fix, to understand. And what's left is this quiet knowing that maybe, just maybe, everything really did happen the way it needed to. You don't need to rewrite the past anymore. You don't need to make every moment make sense. Because in the stillness of your own heart, you finally see that all those moments, even the painful ones, were guiding you here, to this version of you who is softer, wiser, and finally at peace with not having all the answers. You see, healing isn't this big moment of triumph. It's not fireworks or clarity or some perfect day when you wake up and everything feels light again. Healing is quieter than that. It's the small moments when you choose to respond with calm instead of anger, when you forgive yourself for being human, when you look at your scars and feel gratitude instead of shame. It's the moment you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start realizing maybe it happened for me. There's such freedom in that shift. When you stop trying to make life bend to your will, you begin to notice how beautifully it unfolds on its own. You start trusting that what leaves was never meant to stay, and what stays has already chosen you. The Buddhists often speak of impermanence, that everything, good or bad, comes and goes. But what they don't always tell you is how peaceful it feels when you finally stop resisting that truth. When you allow life to move the way it's meant to, you stop drowning in the waves and start floating with them. Maybe that's what faith really is, not believing that nothing bad will happen, but believing that whatever happens, you'll be okay. You'll find your way. You always do. Life has a strange way of carrying us even when we don't realize it. Every detour, every delay, every heartbreak, it's all part of something larger that's still unfolding. You may not see the pattern yet, but one day you will. And when you look back, you'll smile and whisper, "Ah, I get it now." Sometimes when I walk the quiet of the early morning, before the world wakes up, I feel it. That deep peace that doesn't come from having everything together, but from knowing I don't need it anymore. I think that's the secret we all keep missing. Peace doesn't arrive when life is perfect. It arrives when we stop waiting for it to be. So if you're still holding on, still searching for meaning, still trying to make sense of what's behind you, let this be your reminder to breathe. You don't need to carry it all. You don't need to understand every reason. Maybe the point was never to understand, but to feel, to live, to love, to lose, and to grow through it all. Life was never meant to be solved. It was meant to be experienced. And you, my friend, are doing exactly that. You're living, you're learning, you're becoming. And even if it doesn't always feel like it, you're exactly where you need to be. If this kind of gentle truth speaks to your heart, stay connected. Subscribe, not because you have to, but because somewhere deep down, you know we're walking the same road, learning to let go, to trust again, to breathe a little easier. Maybe you don't have all the answers yet, but that's okay. None of us do. Maybe all we need to know right now is this. Life is still unfolding, and somehow, in a mysterious, quiet way, it's all going to be okay. There's a quiet beauty in realizing you've made peace with the things that once broke you. Not because you've forgotten them, but because they no longer control you. You can look at the past now without flinching. You can remember without drowning. That's what healing really is, not erasing the story, but finally being able to hold it with gentleness. Maybe you still wish some things had gone differently, and that's okay. But somewhere deep inside, you also know that if they hadn't happened the way they did, you wouldn't have become who you are now. And who you are now, that's something worth loving. You see, life has this quiet rhythm, one that we only start to hear when we stop fighting the noise. For so long, we try to rush our way to the next chapter, trying to close the book on the parts that hurt. But life doesn't move faster just because we want it to. It waits. It waits for us to understand that there's wisdom in the waiting, that every pause is part of the unfolding. The Buddhists often remind us, don't rush your becoming. Flowers don't bloom by force. Rivers don't rush their flow. Everything unfolds when it's ready, and so do you. Maybe right now, you're in a season of stillness. You're not sure what's next. You're not even sure who you are anymore. But that's okay, too. You don't have to know. Sometimes, not knowing is the most honest place you can be. Because when you stop pretending you have all the answers, life finally has space to show you something new. There's a strange peace that comes with saying, I don't know where I'm going, but I trust a way there. It's in these quiet, uncertain spaces that we find our strength. When there's no map, no promise, no clear path, just faith, that's when we begin to hear the whispers again. The ones that say, keep going. The ones that remind you that even in your confusion, you're not lost. You're just becoming. And maybe that's what this whole journey has been about. Learning how to walk with open hands. To let go of what you can't hold. To love without needing to own. To trust without needing to see. That's where real peace lives. It's not loud or dramatic. It's simple, quiet, steady. It shows up in the softest ways, in the way you breathe easier now, the way your shoulders don't feel so heavy, the way you catch yourself smiling at nothing in particular. That's life whispering. See? You made it through. So as you move forward, don't rush. Don't force. Let the days unfold the way a sunrise does, slow, gentle, inevitable. You don't need to chase what's meant for you. It will find you, always has, always will. Just keep your heart open. Keep showing up. Keep trusting that even the smallest steps are still movement. And if this message finds you in one of those quiet nights where the world feels too heavy and your thoughts too loud, breathe. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are just in the middle of becoming someone even more beautiful than before. Stay close if you need gentle reminders like this. Subscribe, not for me, but for you, for the days when you forget how far you've come, for the nights when you need a voice to whisper, "It's okay. You're doing just fine." Because you are. You truly are. Life may not be easy, but it's still incredibly beautiful. And so are you, exactly as you are right now. There's something about reaching this part of the journey, the part where you finally stop running, that feels both terrifying and freeing. You stop chasing what's gone. You stop begging for answers that never come. And you start learning to live with the quiet instead. That quiet used to scare you, didn't it? It felt like emptiness, like loss. But now it feels like peace. It's the kind of peace that doesn't come from getting what you wanted, but from accepting what is, and that acceptance, that gentle surrender, is where life finally begins to breathe again. You start noticing things you used to miss. The warmth of sunlight on your face. The way the wind feels when it brushes through the trees. The small, soft moments that never asked for your attention, but were always there, waiting for you to slow down enough to see them. That's what presence really is. Not some big spiritual achievement, but a return to what's real, what's here, what's now. The Buddhists call it mindfulness, but maybe it's even simpler than that. Maybe it's just remembering to be where your feet are. You realize, after everything, that happiness was never hiding in some future version of your life. It's always been right here, tucked quietly inside the moments you used to overlook. You don't need to reach for more anymore. You don't need to prove anything. You've already survived so much. And in doing so, you've already won in ways that don't need applause. Life doesn't need to be perfect for it to be beautiful. It just needs to be honest. And the more honest you are about your fears, your flaws, your hopes, the lighter everything feels. You no longer carry the weight of pretending. You no longer have to hold yourself to impossible standards. You're just human, messy, tender, growing, learning. And that's enough. Maybe that's the real lesson behind everything happened for a reason. It's not that every pain was meant to teach you something right away, but that every moment, no matter how confusing, is part of a larger story that's still unfolding. You can't always see the meaning from where you stand now, but that doesn't mean it isn't there. Sometimes, the reason only becomes clear when you look back, years later, and realize how everything that once hurt you also shaped you. So if life feels uncertain, if the path ahead still looks blurry, don't panic. Breathe. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to rush. Maybe the beauty of life isn't in finding all the answers, but in learning to love the questions, to trust that not knowing can be its own kind of grace. Because when you stop needing to control the story, you finally get to live it. And in that living, in that raw, imperfect, beautiful mess, you find what you were looking for all along. Not certainty, not control, but peace. The kind of peace that comes when you realize there's nothing to fix, nothing to chase, nothing to prove. just this breath, just this moment, just you, alive, present enough. If this message touched something in you, stay. Subscribe if you like, so we can keep walking together, through the noise, through the stillness, through it all. Because maybe what we all need, more than anything, is a small reminder that we're not walking alone. Life keeps unfolding, and so do we. And maybe, just maybe, that's the reason after all. There's a softness that comes when you finally stop fighting life, when you stop demanding that it be something other than what it is. You stop asking, why me, and start whispering, maybe this too is part of the path. That's when everything begins to shift. It's not that the pain disappears or that the hard days stop coming, but they stop defining you. They become waves instead of walls. You let them move through you instead of trying to fight them, and somehow they don't drown you anymore. You realize that peace was never about controlling the storm. It was about learning how to stand in the rain without losing yourself. There's a kind of quiet strength that grows from that, a wisdom born not from books or teachings, but from lived experience. You've fallen, you've lost, you let go, and somehow you've kept your heart open. That's something sacred. That's something not everyone manages to do. And in that openness, life begins to return to you, slowly, softly, almost shyly. You find yourself smiling again, not because everything's perfect, but because you finally understand it doesn't have to be. You don't need the world to change to feel whole anymore. You've learned to find wholeness right in the middle of the mess. Maybe that enlightenment, not floating above life, but walking gently through it with your eyes open and your heart unarmored. You start to see how every person who crossed your path was a mirror. Every heartbreak showed you where you still needed to love yourself. Every disappointment revealed where you were still holding on to control. Every ending, even the painful ones, was a beginning in disguise. You see it now. You don't need to be bitter. You don't need to cling. You can just say thank you, not because it didn't hurt, but because it helped you grow. And in that gratitude, something beautiful happens. You stop chasing happiness and start living it, not in a loud, explosive way, but in small, simple moments, a shared laugh, a quiet sunrise, the smell of rain on the ground. These little things become enough. They become everything. You realize that life isn't waiting to begin after you achieve, fix, or find something. It's happening now, in every breath, in every heartbeat. So as you move forward, don't rush to be anywhere else. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right where you're supposed to be, learning, growing, unfolding. Even when it feels uncertain, trust that you're being guided, even in silence. Because life has a way of leading you exactly where you need to go, even when you can't see the map. Maybe that's what everything happens for a reason truly means. Not that everything is good, but that everything can become good if you let it transform you. The reason isn't in the event itself. It's in what it awakens inside you. The reason is the strength you found, the compassion you grew, the softness you reclaimed after the storm. If these words find you tonight, take them as a sign to rest, to stop fighting the current for a while, to breathe and let life carry you. You're doing better than you think. You've already survived what you once thought you couldn't. And the road ahead, it's still full of light. Stay close, my friend. Subscribe if you'd like to walk together a little longer, to keep reminding each other that it's okay to slow down, to feel, to heal. Because maybe this quiet connection, this gentle understanding, is exactly the reason you were meant to find this moment today. And maybe now, at the end of all these reflections, what's left isn't some grand revelation or perfect answer. It's something quieter, something truer. It's the gentle understanding that life was never about controlling what happens, but about learning how to meet it with grace. Maybe everything really does happen for a reason, but not in the way we used to think. The reason isn't out there, hidden in some mystery, waiting to be solved. The reason is you, the person you become because of everything you've been through, the strength that grew out of heartbreak, the kindness that rose from pain, the peace that finally came when you stopped needing life to make sense and just started letting it be. Look how far you've come. You walked through storms that tried to break you. You faced days that felt endless, nights that felt too heavy, and yet here you are, still breathing, still becoming, still capable of love, even after loss. That's not a small thing. That's not coincidence. That's purpose. That's the quiet proof that maybe you were never lost at all. You were just learning how to come home to yourself. Sometimes we think life's meaning hides in the big moments, the victories, the milestones, the moments everyone claps for. But maybe meaning lives in the quiet details. In the mornings you got up when you didn't want to, in the times you chose kindness instead of anger, in the way you kept going when no one was watching. Those are the sacred moments. Those are the ones that shape who you are. And maybe the real reason everything happens isn't to teach us lessons, but to open our hearts, to remind us that love, compassion, and understanding are the only things that truly matter. That every person we meet, every story we cross, is just another mirror reflecting us back to ourselves. Life isn't against you. It's working with you. It's trying to bring you closer to what's real, to what's lasting, to what's always been inside you. So, wherever you are right now, whether you're healing from something, searching for clarity, or just learning to breathe again, please know this. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. The universe isn't waiting for you to be perfect. It's just waiting for you to be present, to show up with your heart open, your spirit willing, and your faith, however fragile, still intact. Because even a small, trembling faith can move mountains over time. You don't have to rush anymore. You don't have to have it all figured out. Take a moment right now and notice how far you've come. That strength, that resilience, that quiet courage that got you here, it's still with you. It's what will carry you forward. And maybe from now on, when something falls apart, you'll remember this truth. Things don't always end because they're broken. Sometimes they end because you've outgrown them. So keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep allowing life to unfold in its own rhythm. The days ahead will still have their storms, but you'll face them differently now. With softer eyes, with steadier breath, with a heart that knows it's safe to let go. Because once you've learned that peace doesn't depend on circumstances, nothing can really take it away. If these words have stayed with you, if somewhere in your heart they've helped you breathe a little easier, I'd love for you to stay connected. Subscribe to this channel, not just for more stories, but for reminders like this, gentle, honest, human. Reminders that you're not alone, that someone out here is walking to the same lessons, learning the same truth, that life, even in its chaos, is still beautiful. And when you do, when you subscribe, when you stay, when you keep showing up, it's not about numbers or growth. It's about community. It's about finding people who understand the unspoken parts of you, who remind you that it's okay to slow down, to question, to heal. Because maybe, in the end, that's the real reason we're all here, to help each other remember, to remind each other that we can survive heartbreak, that we can find peace again, that we can keep believing in love even after loss, that we are, every single one of us, still becoming. So, take a deep breath, feel the ground beneath your feet. Let this moment be enough. You don't have to fix anything right now. You don't have to chase what's next. Just be here. Just be alive. Just be you. And as you move forward from this space, carry this truth with you. Everything that's happened, every twist, every loss, every joy, has brought you closer to who you were always meant to be. You're not at the end. You're at the beginning of something new, something lighter, something real. Thank you for being here, for listening, for walking this path with me. Until next time, take care of your heart, trust your journey, and never forget it's okay. You're okay. And everything in its own mysterious way is unfolding just as it should.